Let's start today with a small, perhaps uncomfortable mental exercise. Picture this. You and your partner have finally made it. You followed the blueprint for success to the letter. One of you is a high-performing marketing director, the other is a senior software engineer. Your combined household income comfortably cruises past the $130,000 mark. By every traditional metric and every statistical chart, you are the elite. You are the upper middle class that others aspire to be. But let's talk about what happens when the lights go down. It's Sunday night. The house is quiet, the kids are asleep, and you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Despite that six-figure salary hitting your bank account every month, there is a familiar, cold knot of anxiety tightening in your chest. You aren't thinking about your next vacation or your investment portfolio. You are doing mental math, obsessing over next month's mortgage payment, the rising cost of private tuition, and the creeping realization that one missed paycheck could send this entire glass house shattering to the ground. Why does it feel like you're running a marathon on a treadmill that keeps getting faster? Why, in the most prosperous era in human history, does the American dream feel like a trap? You did everything right. That's the most frustrating part, isn't it? You stayed in school, you earned the degrees, you climbed the corporate ladder, and you waited until you were financially stable to get married and buy that beautiful home in a desirable zip code. You drive a safe car, you eat organic, you contribute to your retirement fund. On paper, you were winning, but in reality, financial security has become a luxury item that you can't quite seem to afford. This is the modern paradox. We are surrounded by the symbols of wealth, the stainless steel appliances, the latest smartphones, the manicured lawns, yet we are more fragile than our parents ever were. Our grandparents lived on a single income, owned a home, and still had a pension waiting for them. Today, we have two high-powered careers, 2 degrees, and twice the stress, yet we find ourselves drowning while standing on perfectly dry land. You aren't suffering from a lack of effort. You are suffering from a systemic shift that has turned the middle-class lifestyle into a high-stakes gamble. We've traded flexibility for status, and in doing so, we've painted ourselves into a corner where there is zero margin for error. We've been sold a lie based on simple arithmetic. We were told that 2 incomes are always better than 1. We believed the logic that 1 plus 1 must equal 2. Double the safety, double the spending power, double the freedom. But tonight, I'm going to challenge that math. I'm going to show you why, in today's volatile economy, 1 plus 1 often equals 0. In some cases, it even becomes a negative number. When both partners work, the safety net doesn't actually get wider, it gets stretched thinner. We have built a lifestyle that requires 2 incomes just to survive. We haven't doubled our security, we've doubled our risk. If one person loses a job, if one person gets sick, or if the market shifts just a few degrees, the entire structure collapses because there is no backup income left. The backup is the primary. In this series, we are going to pull back the curtain on the 2-income trap. We are going to explore how the very things we thought would protect us are actually the things holding us underwater. Welcome to Part 1. It's time to stop looking at the illusion of prosperity and start looking at the truth of your bank account.
Imagine, for a moment, that we are stepping into a time machine. The year is 1970. The world feels slower, quieter, and fundamentally different from the hyper-connected, high-pressure environment we navigate today. Back then, the economic landscape of the typical middle-class family was built on a foundation that seems almost alien to us now: the single-income household. In 1970, only about 43% of women were part of the formal labor force. For the vast majority of middle-class families, the financial engine was powered by just one person, usually the father. On the surface, this sounds like a recipe for struggle. How could one paycheck possibly cover the needs of an entire family in a world where we now struggle even with two? But if we look closer, we find a startling paradox. Having less income actually provided more security. When you look at the paychecks from 1970, the numbers look tiny, almost like play money. But don't let those small figures fool you. The true story isn't about the amount of cash in the wallet, it's about real purchasing power. In 1970, that single paycheck went a staggering distance. A typical family could purchase a mid-sized home using only about 25% of their monthly income. Think about that compared to today's housing market. With that one salary, they didn't just survive, they thrived. They covered comprehensive health insurance, sent their children to school, and maintained a consistent savings account. They even had enough left over for those iconic regular summer vacations, all without the looming shadow of crippling debt. So what was their secret weapon? It wasn't a higher interest rate or a better stock market. The key was a concept called the margin of safety. In our modern era, we often view a stay-at-home parent as an economic luxury or even an underutilized resource. But in 1970, the mother at home was much more than a caregiver. She was the family's free insurance policy. You see, because the family lived comfortably on one income, they had a massive amount of untapped human capital. If the father suddenly lost his job, or if he fell ill and couldn't work, the family didn't immediately fall off a financial cliff. They had a backup plan. The mother could enter the labor market to provide a fresh stream of income. In engineering terms, the 1970s family had brakes to stop a crisis and a spare tire to keep the car moving. Their lifestyle was intentionally designed with room for error. Because they weren't already maxed out with two people working full-time just to pay the mortgage, they had a safety net that no bank could offer. Today, most families have already played their ace. With both parents working full-time just to stay afloat, there is no one left to send into the workforce if disaster strikes. We have more money coming in, but we have lost our margin of safety. We are driving faster than ever, but we've realized too late that we've removed the brakes and used up the spare tire. In the 1970s, less was more, because less meant freedom from fragility. At first glance, the dual income revolution looked like a liberation. On paper, having two earners in one household should have meant a massive surplus of wealth, more savings, more vacations, and an earlier retirement. But the market had a different plan. A cruel chain reaction began the moment the two-income family became the cultural and economic standard. Instead of using that second paycheck to build generational wealth, families unknowingly used it to declare war on each other. It wasn't a war of malice, but a war of survival. The extra income didn't go into savings accounts. It went directly into the bidding war for a middle-class life. The primary battlefield for this arms race is the housing market. Every parent shares the same fundamental instinct to give their child the best possible start in life. In our modern economy, that start is dictated by a school district. This created a desperate bottleneck. Families began flocking to the few neighborhoods zoned for high-performing schools. When every competing couple has two salaries instead of one, their bidding power doubles. They are willing, and often forced, to take on massive, suffocating mortgages just to secure a spot in a safe neighborhood. The result? Real estate prices didn't just rise, they exploded, often doubling the rate of general inflation. You aren't necessarily buying a bigger house or a more luxurious kitchen than your parents had. In many cases, you are paying twice as much just to occupy the same social ground. You aren't buying a better life. You are paying a premium just to keep your place in the race. But the trap doesn't stop at the front door of your home. The cost of basic participation in the middle class has decoupled from reality. Over the last few decades, while electronics and clothing got cheaper, the big-ticket essentials became predatory. Healthcare costs have surged by an eye-watering 600%, and the price of higher education has skyrocketed by over 1,200%. These aren't luxury expenses you can opt out of. They are what economists call fixed costs. In the 1970s, if a breadwinner lost their job, the family could cut back on steak, cancel the newspaper, and survive on a single income for a while. Today's families don't have that slack. When your income is tied to a massive mortgage, skyrocketing health insurance premiums, and non-negotiable tuition fees, your budget becomes a house of cards. These costs are fixed, meaning they don't care if you lose your job next month or if your hours are cut. You have effectively locked yourself into a golden cage. The bars are made of high-status zip codes and prestigious degrees, but the keys are held firmly by the banks and the medical billing departments. By trying to out-earn the competition, the modern family has traded their freedom for a fragile stability that can vanish with a single layoff. This is the irony of the dual-income era. We have twice the money, but half the security.
We've been conditioned to believe that two incomes are always better than one. It's the cornerstone of the modern hustle culture. But if we pull back the curtain and look at the cold, hard math, the reality is often shocking. We aren't just working for a paycheck. In many cases, we are paying for the privilege of working. Let's take a look at a typical scenario. A household where the second earner brings in a respectable $50,000 a year. On paper, that looks like a life-changing amount of money. But let's watch how quickly that $50,000 evaporates into thin air. First, we have to talk about the progressive tax sting. Because this second income sits on top of the primary earner's salary, it is taxed at the highest marginal rate. It's the tip of the iceberg, and the government takes the biggest bite out of this portion. Between federal taxes, state taxes, and Social Security, you can expect to lose 30 to 35% immediately. Before you've even stepped into the office, your $50,000 has shriveled down to roughly $33,000. Now we hit the biggest wall: childcare. If you have 2 children, the cost of high-quality daycare or after-school programs is staggering. In many metropolitan areas, this can easily range from $20,000 to $30,000 a year. Think about that for a moment. You are spending 40 to 50 hours a week away from your children, missing their milestones and their growth, just to hand over nearly your entire take-home pay to someone else to raise them. After paying the nanny or the daycare center, your year of hard labor has netted you a grand total of $3,000. But we aren't done yet. To earn that money, you need the professional kit. This means a second car, insurance, fuel, and constant maintenance. Then add the cost of a professional wardrobe in those daily convenience coffees or lunches. These operational costs easily swallow another $5,000. Now look at the math. We started at $50,000. We are now at negative $2,000. You are literally paying out of pocket to go to work. Finally, there is the most painful hidden cost of all: the burnout tax. When 2 parents are grinding out 10-hour days, no one has the physical or emotional bandwidth left to cook, clean, or manage a household. You find yourself ordering expensive takeout because you're too exhausted to stand at the stove. You hire cleaning services because the weekends are for recovering, not scrubbing floors. You engage in retail therapy, buying things you don't need online just to get a hit of dopamine after a stressful day dealing with a demanding boss. This isn't just a financial drain, it's an emotional one. The math leads us to a devastating realization. After subtracting the taxes, the childcare, the commute, and the burnout expenses, your net income isn't just zero, it's often a negative number. You are sacrificing your time, your health, and your relationship with your children. You are enduring the soul-crushing weight of traffic jams and office politics, and at the end of every month, your family is actually a little bit poorer because of it. The second income isn't a ladder to the middle class. For many, it's a treadmill that leads nowhere.
Many of us believe that having 2 incomes is our greatest safety net. We earn more, we spend more, and we upgrade our lives under the assumption that both paychecks will always be there. But in reality, this double-income lifestyle often creates a fragile trap. If your lifestyle requires 2 salaries to survive, you aren't twice as wealthy, you're twice as vulnerable. Today, we explore the Freedom Strategy, a framework designed to reclaim your autonomy by rebuilding your financial foundation on a single pillar. The path to freedom isn't found in a dramatic, I quit moment tomorrow morning. That is a recipe for anxiety, not liberation. The real solution lies in a psychological and structural pivot, living as if you only have one source of income. This isn't about deprivation, it's about strategic decoupling. It's about ensuring that your basic survival, your roof, your food, and your utilities never depends on a perfect world where everything goes right. It's about preparing for the what-ifs before they happen. The most significant financial decision most families ever make is buying a home. Traditionally, banks look at your combined income and tell you how much you can borrow. Most people take the maximum amount, locking themselves into a 30-year commitment that requires two people to work full-time until they retire. When you calculate your mortgage based on what one person can comfortably afford, you change the power dynamic of your life. If one of you loses a job, faces a health crisis, or simply burns out, you won't lose the roof over your head. You buy a home that serves your life, rather than living a life that serves your mortgage. If you are living on one income, what happens to the second paycheck? In the freedom strategy, the second salary is treated as non-existent for daily living expenses. It doesn't go toward dining out, luxury clothes, or subscription services. Instead, it becomes your most powerful financial weapon. Debt eradication. Use every cent of that second income to aggressively kill high-interest debt. Become debt-free in months, not years. The 12-month fortress. Most experts suggest a 3-month emergency fund. We aim higher. Use the second income to build a 1-year survival fund. This is your peace of mind account. The wealth engine. Once the debt is gone and the fortress is built, funnel that entire second income into income-generating assets, stocks, real estate, or retirement accounts. Because this money isn't needed for rent, it can be invested with a long-term perspective and a high tolerance for growth. The ultimate goal of the freedom strategy isn't to accumulate a pile of gold or drive a luxury car that impresses the neighbors. The goal is to buy back your right to say no. When your investments grow large enough to cover your basic needs, you have achieved something rare, the power of choice. You are no longer a hostage to a toxic boss or a soul-crushing commute. If a parent falls ill and needs full-time care, you can be there. If your children are growing up too fast and you want to spend those precious formative years with them, you can. If you have a burning desire to start a business or pursue a passion project, you can do so without the fear of bankruptcy. You aren't just saving money, you are buying back your time, your health, and your freedom.
We have spent this journey dissecting numbers, debt cycles, and the shifting landscape of the middle class. But as we reach the end, we need to address the most profound cost of the two-income trap. It's not just about the numbers in your bank account or the balance on your mortgage. The real casualty of the modern economy isn't just your money, it's your flexibility. Think back to our grandparents' generation. By modern standards, they had significantly less. They had smaller homes, fewer gadgets, and rarely ate at restaurants. Yet they possessed a hidden financial superpower, the power of choice. Because their lifestyle was built on a single income, they had a massive safety net built into their daily lives. If a family member got sick, if a job was lost, or if a financial storm hit, they had a backup plan. They could tighten their belts, and the second adult could enter the workforce to save the day. They had a spare tire. Fast forward to today, we look wealthier on paper. We drive better cars, live in larger houses, and our homes are filled with high-tech conveniences. But look closer at the foundation. Most modern families are running a high-performance engine with no backup. When both parents are already working full-time just to cover the fixed costs, the mortgage, the car payments, the private tuition, there is no spare tire left. You are already running at 100% capacity. This is the irony of the modern age. We have more money than our ancestors, but we are standing on a much thinner sheet of ice, and that ice is melting. One layoff, one medical emergency, or one economic downturn doesn't just hurt, it potentially shatters the entire foundation of your life because you have zero room to pivot. So how do we break free? It starts with a radical shift in how we perceive success. My call to action for you today is this: stop letting society define your wealth by the size of your house or the badge on the front of your car. Those are often just gilded cages that lock you into a cycle of perpetual work. Instead, I want you to start measuring your wealth by time and autonomy. Ask yourself this difficult question: if both paychecks stopped coming in tomorrow, how long could my family survive and stay in our home? True wealth isn't found in what you can buy, it's found in what you can endure. It's the peace of mind that comes from knowing you aren't a slave to your next paycheck. It's the freedom to say no to a toxic job or yes to a family emergency without fearing financial ruin. The two-income trap is a structural reality of our time, but it doesn't have to be your personal destiny. By lowering your fixed costs, prioritizing savings, and resisting the urge to level up your lifestyle every time you get a raise, you buy back your freedom. You move off the thin ice and back onto solid ground. If this video helped you look at your wallet and your life through a different lens, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We are dedicated to deconstructing these modern financial traps and finding the path back to true financial independence. Thank you for watching. Stay flexible, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.